Welcome back to Behind the Print podcast, where we feature industry leaders and uncover the creative minds and their businesses within the world of professional printing. Our mission is to provide you with inspiring, actionable resources that not only elevate your business projects, but accelerate your journey to excellence in profit and print. Today's episode is Green Kids Club Environmental Stories, and I'm here today with environmental engineer of Green Kids Club Incorporated, Sylvia Medina.
Hi, Zoe. It's nice to be here. Thank you for having us. We're really excited to be participating in this interview with you. So,
Of course, we love your guys' books, man. They blow you away. They're gorgeous.
thank you. Thank you. We work very hard. We work pretty hard at it. So,
It shows. So, who does Green Kids Club primarily serve?
we serve the kids and the parents and to teach them the importance of environmental protection of animals that are endangered or on the verge of being endangered or just not being protected and their habitats. So we try to get more to the parents and families in classrooms as we can. So in between the ages of like 6 to I'd say 9 or 10, but we have adults reading our books. So we're open to whoever wants to read our books, and we're excited to have that.
Awesome. So, how do some of your books and programs help kids and families get active within the environment?
Well, I think a lot of times we've done in the past is we focused a lot previously on animals in Africa, and then but now we're focusing more on animals here in the U.S. And what I'm finding is, people, of course, are more interested to learn about what's going on in their own backyard versus somewhere else. So the sales of our books in Africa are pretty good from African animals, but here in the U.S., they've really done well. We did a book on Grizzly 399 who lived in Teton National Park. We did get a lot of exposure on those books. A lot of people interested, and unfortunately, 399 passed away recently, but it's still the same thing. People are still reaching out for those books, and you know, so we are able to put the books out there. We've received some grants from one group based out of Jackson. I think it's the Brisbane. I have to look up the grant, but we did a grant with them for elementary schools in Jackson, all over Jackson. And then we give our books out to, we just gave a classroom of books to Gardner, Montana, and up in Ashton in this area where there are grizzlies, so people can become familiar with those kind of animals.
Super
Okay.
cool. Super cool. So, tell me, how did the creation of Green Kids Club even start?
I'm an environmental engineer, as you mentioned, and I moved here to Idaho Falls, Idaho, which is southeast Idaho. We live about an hour and a half from Yellowstone and Teton National Park. And I moved up here right out of college because I got a job offer with the Department of Energy as a contractor. And when I moved up here, I was kicking and screaming. I didn't want to come up here right out of college from Arizona, New Mexico. And I thought I was going to freeze to death, which I do periodically, especially 41 degrees below zero in Yellowstone a few weeks ago. I was in a snow coach. It was really pretty, but it was cold. But I moved up here thinking that I was going to stay for a year or so and then move back to the Southwest. But when I got here, I didn't realize how beautiful the country is, the types of animals we have here. I mean, I can drive an hour, 35 minutes, I'll see moose, bear, an hour and a half, I'm in the park, either park, or, 15, 20 minutes from my home, and I see owls and great gray owls, so I realized how much I really love animals, and I didn't realize where my heart was when I first got here. I had dogs and cats and farm animals, but I hadn't experienced wildlife like that. And then I started a company which I since have sold. It's an environmental engineering company called Northwind, and I did that for about 15 years. And so I'm older than I look. So, and then I had twins, and I was traveling a lot, and I thought, I just need to sell my business and just not do this anymore. But in the meantime, while I was running my company, Northwind, I was, I thought when I had my children, I thought I need them to learn the importance of environmental stewardship and teach them how important it is to preserve our world and our environment and its animals. And so I thought, well, the best way to do this is to write stories. So I started the Green Kids Club, didn't know anything about publishing, didn't know how to write a story. Most of the time, engineers don't take much in terms of English composition or anything. We take a lot of engineering classes, electrical engineering, fluid dynamics, that kind of thing. And we're not very good writers. We're good at problem solving. So I wrote some books, and my books were okay. And they just weren't cutting it. And the books were based on my three kids, and I called them the Green Kids Club, or the Green Kids, and Maya, Victor, and Tiago. And then they were going all right. And then I sold my business, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to keep doing this, but I'm going to really work at figuring it out. So in the meantime, I had met online a woman from Elephants Without Borders in Africa, and she lives in Botswana. And I asked her, hey, do you want to write a book with me? And she said, sure. So we wrote one with the same premise, with the same green kids. And then she asked me to fly out to Botswana and meet her. Her name's Kelly Landon. So I flew out to Botswana, and then they flew me on a bush plane to the middle of nowhere. And I get there to their camp, and there's lions out there, and there's hyenas, and there's elephants, and it's a wild camp. And I was pretty nervous being out there, but when I got there, there was a little baby elephant that had just been brought in that had went through, I believe a poacher had started a fire. The whole family ran off and during the fire and left him there, and he was burned. And so I was there that week while they were bringing him back and trying to get him to be healthy. And I was watching that, and I thought, why not write a story about this? And so that was the birth of the Environmental Heroes series that you're seeing now. And I've got a few great artists who support me. One's Andreas Wessel-Thurhorn, who's a previous Disney artist, and you can see his work is beautiful. And Morgan Spicer, who also did beautiful work for us. And from there, we've just, partnered with other large environmental groups that are foundations that help preserve different animals. We learn about the stories that they work with, of different animals that they experience. And we just started writing stories. So that's a long answer to your question.
Wow, what an amazing story, though. It took you all over the place.
Yeah, I did.
What sets Green Kids Club apart from other environmental sciences or other environmental organizations?
Well, I think I haven't really seen any groups that do what we do. I see an author here maybe doing one or two books, but I've never seen like a company that's what they do. I mean, that's what we do. And right now, we're still trying to get brand recognition. It's taking time for us to get our brand out there. But I think what makes us different is that we do partner with the organizations that highlight an elephant, like Elephants Without Borders, for example, or Project Chimp with chimps. And what we do is we bring the story about that animal in particular and how that organization might have helped save that animal. And at the end, when we sell books, we do donate part of our profits to them to help with their organization. And I think what makes us a little different is we also want them to help us promote the book. So they go out there and do social media too. But I am finding, because I'm based in the US, that our books based on the wild animals in the US are going much better and faster than the books in Africa, because people aren't familiar with those groups. So I think what makes us different is that we tell a true story of a true animal that might have experienced something. A lot of children's books are like somebody made up an idea, and it's a great story, but it's not based on reality. So anyways, that's what I think makes us different.
I think so too. And the part where you were talking about how moving to the north and seeing all the animals that weren't usually in the city, I think a lot of people wish that they could experience that or don't know what they're missing out on until they do experience it.
Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, I'm working with a group based out of Hollywood, actually. They might be doing some 3D animation, so we're hoping it's going to work out. But if we do 3D, one of the things we want to bring is like Yellowstone, like we did a book on Yellowstone National Park just recently. And that's just barely hot off the press. And it's about the reintroduction of wolves into Yellowstone. Kids from other countries, all they hear is about this great place called Yellowstone. But if they get to experience it with 3D animation, our stories, hearing the wolves, I think that really can bring to life our stories to them and bring something that they could not see otherwise through our books, and maybe the animation that we're hoping will come through. So
You got video, you got print, and you got the sounds, the stories. That's so cool.
yeah, we're moving along, so it's starting to move very well. So I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, you had mentioned brand awareness going kind of slow, but can you tell me what strategies have worked best for growing your brand awareness?
I think what's happened is because we live in Idaho Falls and not in LA or New York, where you have access to all these publishers or different groups that could be represent you. We have a harder time because we just don't walk the halls in those areas. So what we've done is we went to the licensing show in Las Vegas, and that has really brought us some exposure. We've got like about 5 licenses right now. And we just went into a joint venture with a group called Yaya International, who is the group that is looking at doing the 3D animation with us. And actually, they want to move the brand into Southeast Asia, all over Asia. So you get some children from Asia who've never experienced Yellowstone to experience the wonders of our world. So we have them. We just barely signed an agreement with them about 2 to 3 months ago. And hopefully that'll help bring our brand out to a larger audience. The licensing show helps. And once our book hopefully gets approved by Yellowstone National Park, and it will be sold in the parks. And I think that'll get our name out further. So it's taking some time, but we're slowly making some progress.
You had talked about managing multiple projects and how you're exploring different avenues for promoting your book. But tell me, how do you manage as a small business owner to wear so many different hats from finance to marketing?
It is hard. I'm not going to tell you it's not. I think being a small business, we're going to grow larger. We'll have to sell more books, and it's just going to take time. But we just do the best we can with our team. We have 2 artists and one that's always available to us, Andreas. And then we have Joy Eagle, and she helps with laying out the books and that type of thing. And then we have a couple of gals here in the office, one who helps with some marketing and one who kind of manages and sells our books. But it's a very small team and it's not full time. So we're always finding that we haven't done something or we forgot to do something or we need some more help in marketing. But I think we're going to get there, Zoe. I think it's just a matter of time. So
Too.
I manage it very well. I try, but sometimes I still have kids in school. So that's another arm to the whole story.
Yeah, lots of things to juggle all at once for sure.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you have a pretty solid team.
Yeah, I think it's working. Everybody's dedicated and committed to what we're doing. It's easier if our team is close by to me because then they can find me when they need to. We're learning a lot with our books. We've had a number of different editors, and we finally have nailed one that's really good that works with us. And then just finding people who can help with different parts of the books. It really helps. We need a backup for Joy because she's busy and when we need to lay out a book. She does a great job, but we do need some more support there. So I'm busy looking for some help too. So
It's exciting. So tell me, what advice would you give another small business owner just starting their business?
I think the Green Kids Club is hard to make money off of a small business that promotes environmental sustainability, that's ecological, it's more conservation oriented. When I had my engineering company to start a small business, and I think it's the same holds true here, is you need to surround yourself with really excellent people who can know more than you do or can help you be successful in your brand or whatever you're trying to sell. And also have good cash flow because you're always going to need some cash flow. But for like Green Kids, I invest in that myself. But in my other business, it was more like just working, doing engineering projects and then getting paid by the customer. So it was a different way of doing business, but I always made sure that we were covered in terms of how to pay ourselves, the proper sales so that we can sustain ourselves. So I guess that would be something I would recommend is just have a good group of people that you can afford and don't get into debt. And I think reaching out to other people who may have the same experience and can mentor you would help. So because they've learned from their experiences and they can teach you what road not to go down.
That's very, very true.
Yeah,
Experience is the best lesson.
I know.
I had seen on your website Kid of the Week or Kid of the Month. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, actually what it is our environmental hero series or environmental person highlight. So periodically we'll have an environmental hero who's more kind of a little older with more background for the most part. But periodically we run into somebody who's a young person who just kicks buttons out there trying to make a difference. So we had Jack Dalton, who was our environmental hero, and he is out trying to save orangutans. So he's written a children's book. He's out there working really hard. And we just thought we would highlight the work he's done because he started doing that work when he was about 6 years old. And then all of a sudden he's on some TV shows and just doing a great job and promoting the importance of environmental education. And then we just also brought in a gal named Taylor Raby, and she's a wolf ecologist and working out at the park. And it's exciting for us to hear her tell her story of what she does out there to help manage and protect the wolves. So we are looking at different people to bring on our website and just highlight what they do. And maybe kids might want to be able to do that sometime too themselves, you know.
Yeah, I watched both of those stories and they're both so inspiring and so genuine and so sincere. I'm so excited to see where those go.
Yes, thank you.
Those are so fun, yeah. So, what major milestones have defined Green Kids Club?
When we found Andreas and Morgan as our artists, you know, because art is changes things, everything, and brings it to life. I think that has been a big milestone for me is finding people who can really bring the story to life. I think it wasn't a milestone so much as we met up with Tom Engelson, and he's got his photography, and he brought me into doing, you know, I was out taking photos of Grizzly 399, and I knew he was, and I'd go out to the park and see that, and it's images of nature with Tom Engelson. And he was out there getting photos of her, and I'd go and buy an image, a photo from him in his gallery. And so I started bugging him to do a book with me. And the answer was no, like 3 different times. But every year I asked. So finally, one year, I think he got tired of me asking. That's another recommendation I give to people is don't give up. Always ask and ask and ask because all they can say is no, right? And eventually they get tired of saying no. So he just said, yeah, I'll do a book with you. And I think that was a milestone in the sense that it took us to the next level. I mean, we've sold thousands of the Grizzly 399 books. The story, the 399, I don't know if you've read her story, but it is part of all of our hearts in the Northwest, in this part of the area. She's an iconic grizzly bear who was almost 30 years old and had, I think, 23 cubs. And she would bring her cubs close to the road to protect them from the male bears, and so people could see her with her cubs. And she was really good at being around people. I mean, not too close. We should never be close to a grizzly bear, but she was 100 yards is the distance. But my story for me, it wasn't just about the story, but it's just like getting to know her as an animal that has a personality and protecting her cubs, being a great mother. And Tom's pictures brought them to life. And so I think having that relationship is a milestone for me. And we are doing another book with her with nothing but photos. So we're going to take all of the storyline that I've done to date. I'm going to merge them, and we're going to make it a story from the beginning to the end and what happened. And then we're going to bring all his photos and bring them into real life. So like right now, we're doing a book similar to that with not just illustrations, but using the photos of animals. So I have a friend so this might be a new milestone. So this photo was taken by Marsha Walters, who won Nature Photographer of the Year this year. And I got to know her, and we decided to write this story about the foxes of the San Juan Islands. And it's a story of a family that lives out there and what it takes to live amongst iconic eagles that come and take their family members. And so it's made with nothing but photos. And what's going to happen is like, you know, so here we got, you know, we're talking about the nanny fox that steals food. So we're going to be doing a book similar to this with Grizzly 399. So we are going down a different road right now in terms of not just illustrations, but photos and picture and the stories. The other thing I struggle with too is when, you know, remember when you're a child and you're a little kid, when you're reading a book and you're reading the story of Bambi or something, and the animals all talk to each other, and the kids might talk to the animals. So they call it anthropomorphizing animals. So animals talk to people, and they have long eyelashes, and little kids really migrate to that. That's an area of disagreement between some of the park service, and the parks don't want you to anthropomorphize an animal. So they want the animal just to not have a personality or one that isn't human-like, and any human characteristics are not allowed to have. So that's been a struggle for us in terms of our 399 book. It doesn't get picked up by some of the parks because they said it's anthropomorphizing the animals. But the kids really love it, and they'll reach out and pick up your book more if they get to have personality versus just telling, 399 walked down the road and saw a bush instead of like 399 said there's a bush, I mean, so there's some of that's been kind of a struggle for me.
That sounds like a really interesting challenge to be dealing with. But on the other note that you were talking about with Bear 399, that is just such an amazing story. I love how you're adding the pictures in too. And I have the illustrated version of 399. And oh my goodness, it's so pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. Morgan Spicer did that book and she did a great job. She brought 399 to life. And I think when you look at 399, like her pictures, it looks a lot like the photos.
That's really beautiful and inspiring. I can't
Yeah.
wait for your next book.
Yeah. It'll be fun. I just have to sit down and start pulling that together. We're finishing the Red Fox families of San Juan Islands, like I showed you. And then we just got this other one done. And then we have a license with You Who characters, which are just more fun stories for kids. So we're going to finish those two. But in the meantime, I'll be starting that other book. But there's this other book in between. It's called Saving Scully. And it's about an orca, the orca that died at Miami SeaWorld. And so that's completely, we're dealing with sea life, ocean life. And that one, we took a different take. I'm working with a producer named Phil Fairclough, who's working on Mutual of Omaha, Wild Kingdom. He's one of the producers or directors. And he's my co-author. And he had written a story called The Whale Jail. And he made a video about it and about these whales that were actually in captivity in Russia. And so he said, let's write a story about our own jails for orcas and the orcas and animals that are in SeaWorld that are there to entertain us, and then they can't leave their little pool for their whole life. They're in a pool for 60 years of their life. And so we started writing a story, and we've taken a long time to finish it. And in between, what's happened is she died, Scully died. And Phil and I were talking about it, and I said, why don't we just finish the story like she actually was freed? And then at the end, you could say, this is not the real ending, but this is what should have happened. And, it's like every time you think you want to go into SeaWorld, you need to think about why you shouldn't go into SeaWorld. And you need to, or maybe they need to change some of their ways. I'm not just talking about SeaWorld. I'm talking about other groups. Like if you go to Hawaii, they do dolphin petting, same thing everywhere. There's got to be some changes that need to be made. Or elephant riding. If you go into the US here, I'm just appalled at the fact that we still have the Shriner circuses with people riding elephants and have animals in captivity. We have some work to do in our country as well as other places.
This is a great stepping stone, and starting with kids is the best place to start.
Yeah, yeah. And kids, when they say, Mom, we don't want to ride that elephant, if they go to like Asia or something, they say, we don't want to do it. And they'll tell their parents why, you know?
And that's true because the kids want to learn and they want to connect with the animal, like you were saying. And when they do make that connection, it changes their whole perspective.
Yeah. Um,
So, if you had unlimited resources for 1 year, what bold dream or project would you take on for Green Kids Club?
I'm hoping this will happen. I do 3D animation on all of our books. I would get all the books done that are sitting here ready to write. I'd like to do a book on wild horses and issues in the BLM for the year. That's one I'd like to do. I'd like to do another Yellowstone wolf book or two because there's so many stories to be told of the wolves there. And I've been recently I got into wildlife photography. I'd really like to do some owls. Something about an owl would be fun. But and then get our books, if we can get our books into most of the schools for education, I'd be so excited because every class has science and biology. And let's talk about the elephant today. And here comes our book on the elephants. That would be like my dream come true, is that our books get into most of the schools as an educational tool, and children can learn about what's going on and maybe they can help make a difference. So
Sure. Empowering them and educating them. That's so exciting. I really hope
yeah,
they do make it into schools. That'd be so awesome.
I can get the best marketer who could go and get us into all these to this place, that would be wonderful. The other thing too we're doing really quick on that is we are teamed up with a group called Noah Text, and they do books for children that have issues with dyslexia and hard to learn reading issues. And so we've redone our books in a different manner and they're more like middle school books now, but with Noah Text and the kids. And so they're starting to hit some of the schools. So we're working with that group right now.
Awesome. That's really exciting and really cool. I haven't ever heard of anybody else doing the dyslexia editing in their books.
Yeah. Well, they contacted us and they're barely hitting the schools. I think they're going to be hitting about 100 schools with about 50, 55, 60 titles, and 5 of them are our titles. So,
How awesome.
yeah,
So when you're not busy writing books or working on books, what are some things you like to do?
I picked up wildlife photography. So I'm really enjoying that. I've learned a lot. I have a mentor called, his name's Tin Man Lee, and I've been taking mentorship classes from him, and I've learned a lot about composition and Photoshop and how to take a good photo, how to use my camera better. So I'm really excited about the different images I'm able to get in photos. And so that's been a lot of fun. So that's a lot of my extra time. And then I'm making an effort to cook more for my kids because I've been thinking there's just so many people getting cancer and so many things wrong. And you look at all the foods and they have all these ingredients that are just not good for us. So I'm trying to cook more, actually go and get some foods that are more natural, teach my kids because I don't want them to get cancer. Many years ago, I had cancer about 8 years ago. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm great. But the thing is, I know a lot of people who have it, and I thought we got to change our eating. So that's one thing I'm trying to do and teach my kids that. And I'm not saying it's a lot of fun, but it is fun to eat it afterwards. So there's that. And then I like to do some travel once in a while. So,
Amazing. I love your cooking goals. That's so exciting. I've been
um,
on a cooking journey this past year myself too.
okay, you'll have to send me some good recipes. I know.
I would love to. So tell me, what's one thing you hope our listeners take away from this episode, and how can they get in touch with Green Kids Club or learn more, order books, or collaborate on a project?
I think what I would like everyone to take away is the fact that we have a big world that we live in, and we can't just command control of the world and take over all the resources and just want to take an ATV out into the woods and ruin it because it's fun. When you're doing that, you're destroying animal habitat. Think about the things that you're doing. Think about how you can make a difference. Think about how you can work with your friend next door who maybe doesn't see things that way. So maybe try and do things on a daily basis that can make a difference in our world. And reading some of our books, learn about the different animals in the world and the experience that they have that maybe we can help them not become an endangered species because what's going to happen to the kids, the young kids? Are there going to be any animals left that are wild, or do you always have to go to the zoo to find them? And so I would like to think that kids that are reading our books can become environmental stewards of our world and protectors of our animals. Not like a crazy tree hugger type, but just making a difference. So that's what I would love to see. And I think as far as getting in touch with us, our homepage is greenkidsclub.com. So www.greenkidsclub.com. And then if you need to contact me, just hit in the back, there's a contact us and it'll go to me, Sylvia. And we also have our own foundation called Love the Wild Foundation. And so we give away books to Green Kids, that's Green Kids nonprofit arm. So it's called lovethewild.org. And we give away books to classes all over the country and all over the world. We'll send out books and we get grants to do it, or we just pay for it ourselves. So we've sent books to Africa and China and different places. And I just did a class here locally about the wolves and the different animals and the bears. And so if you guys are looking to get some books for your classroom teachers, just reach out to us and you let us know that you'd like some. And then in return, all we want is sometimes a photo of you reading the books or something and tell us how it went. Or if you know of anybody who you think could be a great environmental hero, send me their names and I could look at them up and see what we could do or ideas of a story. And maybe we'll consider it. So, because we have a lot on our plate.
All right. Well, you guys heard her. Check them out at lovethewild.org or greenkidsclub.com. But that's another wrap on an episode of Behind the Print podcast. Thanks to our listeners for joining us as we've explored the artistry and innovation of the printing world. Remember, having a strong vision, building the right strategy, and using tools like print to amplify your message will help you stand out from the crowd. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to get your free sample pack from printingcenterusa.com and share it with your fellow business enthusiasts. Until next time, keep those creative sparks flying and remember, there's always more to discover behind the print.
Thank you, Zoe.